patterns, and he was warned for years, and that Vladimir Putin did not have a preference for then-candidate Trump. Now, also tonight, and this is a massive development, Sarah Carter reporting, sources confirming right here to this show, the House Intel Committee has evidence showing that former Obama Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, allegedly leaked information to CNN about then-President-elect Donald Trump and President Barack Obama being briefed about the fake news dossier. So what did Obama know? When did he know it? And also tonight, President Trump unloads on the liberal media and Democrats and his political rivals at a raucous rally in Pennsylvania. And tonight, in a Hannity exclusive, the Vice President, Mike Pence, he will react to the massive FISA abuse scandal. And also tonight, we have a package bomb killing a teenager and wounding 2 women in Austin, Texas. We'll update you throughout the hour on this very scary story. And that is all a part of tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, major developments. This is a big night tonight in the Russia investigation. Now, the big breaking news, the House Intel Committee has now ended what has been a 14-month investigation into this phase of the Russian probe. And it's now starting to release details of what it has uncovered. This is the only, in this particular case, on collusion. We still have FISA abuse, Uranium One, the unmasking scandal, and, of course, the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. That's not included tonight. Here are the takeaways from the House Intel Committee. There is zero evidence. Let me repeat, none. No evidence showing any sort of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. By the way, I hope Robert Mueller and his merry band of Democratic partisans and donors and witch hunters are all watching tonight. Their investigation should be shut down immediately. Now, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, he needs to be investigated. We'll explain that. He's rushing to Mueller's defense, saying that the special counsel is, quote, not an unguided missile. And Rosenstein is trying to cover himself because tonight's brand new information proves that Mueller is in and has been in a giant witch hunt. Now, also tonight, the media, the Democrats, this is what you've got to take away for this. This has been going on for nearly 18 months, and they have been lying to you. They have perpetuated one of the biggest hoaxes in American history. We'll have more on that in a minute. But here are the other key findings from the GOP members on the House Intel Committee. There is a pattern of Russian attacks against America's key allies in Europe. Russian hackers use social media in 2015, 2016, as we have been telling you, to sow political discord within the United States. President Obama was warned in 2014. He did nothing to stop Vladimir Putin and Russia, even though he was warned specifically that this was happening. And the committee agrees with the intelligence community's overall assessment on Russian interference, but they find that Vladimir Putin did not have a preference for candidate Donald Trump. Now, congressional Republicans are also making very clear, and this part is important, the only part of the investigation that is closed regarding Russia collusion, that's it. They will still be probing what is unresolved issues involving the unmasking scandal, FISA abuses, and, of course, the Clinton phony bought and paid for Russian dossier. And also tonight, and this is also a major development, Sarah Carter, she'll join us reporting, and our other sources confirming to this show, an explosive revelation about the former Obama Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. Now, Clapper allegedly leaked to fake news CNN information that then President-elect Donald Trump and then President Barack Obama were briefed about a part in the phony dossier. Now, that claims, of course, that Russians have compromising information on, well, then President-elect Trump. And sources are also telling Sarah Carter tonight that Clapper was in contact with CNN's Jake Tapper at roughly the same time that CNN published a report about President-elect Trump and President Obama being briefed about the dossier. Now, if you remember, this created a huge, massive firestorm, and it helped lay the groundwork for the media's never-ending hysteria, breathless Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory that they have been pushing ever since. And sources are also telling us tonight Clapper was either CNN's original source or the confirming source about the report on the dossier. And what's even more pathetic and more sleazy is that after allegedly leaking information to CNN, well, Clapper then put out a statement back in January of 2017. It reads in part, well, this evening I had the opportunity to speak with President-elect Donald Trump to discuss recent media reports about our briefing last Friday. I expressed my profound dismay at the leaks that have been appearing in the press, and we both agreed they are extremely corrosive and damaging to our national security. Clapper was lying through his teeth. He was one of the leakers. And since then, by the way, the former director of national intelligence, he has been doing everything and anything possible to prop up this phony Clinton bought and paid for dossier. Watch this.
With respect to the dossier itself, the key thing is, it doesn't matter who paid for it. It's what the dossier said and the extent to which it's corroborated or not.
Now, we reached out to James Clapper for a statement. He works for fake news CNN on Sarah's report, and his spokesperson declined to comment. But he did note that Sarah's story appears to be about leaking information that was not classified or sensitive. So Clapper is not outright denying it, which tells you pretty much everything you need to know. We have for over a year been out here almost an island unto ourselves as we've been uncovering this scandal and telling you, as shocking as what is being exposed is only the tip of the iceberg. Now, the House Intelligence Committee, 14 months, is still conducting very important investigations. They have nothing to do with Donald Trump, but they do have to do with unmasking at an unprecedented level, unprecedented use of the FISA law and FISA abuses, and, of course, the Clinton bought and paid for fake news dossier. This is only the beginning. You've been lied to for well over a year. Now back to the other key findings from the Republicans on the House Intel Committee. They prove what we have been telling you for over a year, that the media and the Democrats have lied to you. There is no Trump-Russia collusion. Take a look at this disgraceful coverage as a means of remembering what we've been saying.
A dizzying 24 hours in the Russia investigation, no longer just inching toward the president. This morning, it is more like careening.
I think this is a potentially more dangerous situation than Watergate, and we're at a very dangerous moment. And that's because we are looking at the possibility that the President of the United States and those around him during an election campaign colluded with a hostile foreign power to undermine the basis of our democracy.
Donald Trump is afraid. A political hurricane is out there at sea for him. We'll call it Hurricane Vladimir, if you will, the whole Russian thing.
This is evidence of willingness to commit collusion.
There's outright treason. I mean, there is no question that what he is doing is giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
Tom Friedman said the election hacking is at the caliber of a Pearl Harbor or a 9/11. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. Donald Trump now sits at the threshold of impeachment.
The only one who had anything to do with Russia that tried to propagate false Russian information was Hillary. Her bought and paid for Russian dossier. Anyone with half a brain could see that there was no collusion. Now, tonight, the media in this country should be apologizing to you, the American people, for spreading outright lies, misinformation, propaganda for over a year. Now, Democrats are in the same boat as the media. They look like complete and total and utter fools tonight. And leading the way, of course, is the ranking Democrat on the House Intel Committee, and that would be Congressman, I want to work at fake news, conspiracy TV, MSNBC, Adam Schiff. Take a look at this painful and this pathetic evolution on so-called Trump-Russia collusion that we now know never happened and doesn't exist.
What do you got hard?
Well, Chris, unfortunately, I can't go into the evidence that's being presented to the committee.
Do you have something hard that you can't reveal?
I can't reveal that, Chris. Of course, there's one thing to say there's evidence. There's another thing to say we can prove this or prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, or there's enough evidence to bring to a grand jury for purposes of a criminal indictment. I don't think we can say anything definitively at this point. We are still at the very early stage of the investigation.
Last March, you said you had more than circumstantial evidence of treasonous collusion with Russia. What specifically were you referring to? And please be specific, because if it's true, I do believe Americans have the right to know a year later what that is.
Well, I've certainly said that there's ample evidence of collusion. I've never used the word treason. Only Steve Bannon has used that word. But if you look at the facts that are already in the public domain, they're pretty damning.
That's it? Oh, the evidence in the public domain. You have no evidence. And Schiff knew the entire time there was no collusion, yet he went on TV some 250 times since the inauguration and lied his face off. Congressman Schiff is the epitome of a left-wing partisan hack. Then, of course, there's President Obama. Like we have been telling you, House Intel Committee Republicans are finding out, well, he did nothing to stop Russian election interference. Now, Congressman Devin Nunes, He started warning then President Obama about Russian and election interference in 2014. Obama ignored every single warning sign. Here's a headline from Nunes, an op-ed that he wrote in the Washington Times, and he writes, you know, the bear out there. Okay, that means Russia. And the House Intel chair goes on to detail the direct threat that was posed by Putin and the Russians. This is 2014. And what's worse is that while all this Russian interference was beginning to happen and was happening, Obama, just before the election, tried to shame then candidate Donald Trump, telling him to stop whining about an election possibly being rigged, because that could never happen. Remember this.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections, in part because they're so decentralized and the numbers of votes involved. There's no evidence that that has happened in the past, or that there are instances in which that will happen this time. And so I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop whining and go try to make his case to get votes.
Yet no serious person could ever believe it. Oh, until Hillary lost and you needed a big excuse. Then we'll believe it. Democrats should be ashamed of themselves tonight. All of this new information is revealing what they really, really are all about. Total frauds, partisan hacks. They don't care what they put the country through for, what, 18 months now? Democrats had the opportunity, Obama had the opportunity to stop Russia. And then after their candidate lost, oh, it couldn't happen, but it did happen, because then it was about delegitimizing and smearing President Trump to divert attention away from what really happened, even though Obama said it could never happen. The truth is now finally all coming out, and this is only the start. I told you this was the year of the boomerang. There's a lot that still needs to be investigated. We will stay on it. It will be investigated. We do know the Obama administration. We know they were unmasking members of the Trump campaign at an unprecedented level. And, of course, Trump campaign associate. And then, of course, is the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. We still need to get to the truth on that. Hillary Clinton didn't care about paying for false information, Russian government lies to influence an election. The FBI took that completely unverified dossier. They have a legal and an ethical and protocol obligation to do it themselves. They lied to a FISA judge. They never verified. They never corroborated. They never told the judge Clinton paid for it, you know, to get a warrant to spy on a member of the opposition party campaign during an election year. And remember the Grassley-Graham memo? The dossier made up the bulk of the FISA application. And the former deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, testifying, no dossier, there wouldn't have even been a FISA application. They never verified. They never checked. They didn't care. This is the biggest abuse of power scandal in the history of this country. It is the biggest corruption scandal, and it's only beginning. Sit tight, be patient. I know for a fact more information is coming. Now, also breaking tonight in a Hannity exclusive, the Vice President, Mike Pence, he is reacting to several major breaking news stories. Here's what the Vice President had to say about combating Russian election interference. Let's take a look. The Russians wanted to sow discord in the last election. Get your general thoughts on how to counter that, especially in the day and age where everything's digital, everything's on computers, and, you know, somebody can be sitting in an office anywhere in the world and be trying to interrupt what's going on in this country.
Well, what's clear now is that Russian individuals and elements, and maybe other countries, sought to, in your words, sow discord in this election, and particularly using the internet to do it. And it's one of the reasons why a variety of agencies in our administration are taking dramatic steps to see to it that that does not happen again. And we'll continue to support efforts to hold those individuals to the fullest account of the law.
Now, I also asked the Vice President about the growing FISA abuse scandal, and here's what he said on that issue. Andrew McCabe, former deputy FBI director, said no dossier, no application for a FISA warrant. So it played a big role. They didn't tell the court that, in fact, Hillary Clinton's campaign paid for it. And then they tried to corroborate it, but it was the same source adding a Yahoo News article. So it was deceptive towards the court. So the whole issue of FISA abuse is now front and center. Does that sound to you like FISA abuse to you? Does that sound like FISA abuse?
Well, we'll know when all the facts are out. and the American people have a right to know. But whatever the mechanism is for that, I think it's important that if there were actions taken that were inconsistent with the FISA courts or in other respects relative to the law, that they need to be addressed and they need to be fully vetted.
Now, we're going to have a lot more of our exclusive interview, the vice president. That's coming up later tonight. But first, President Trump also this week, he eviscerated, absolutely eviscerated, and rightly so, the lying liberal mainstream media at a massive rally this weekend in Pennsylvania. The media, well, they've been trying to utterly destroy this president. But just like always, he's refusing to back down. Instead, he's firing back. This is vintage Donald Trump, a big media takedown. Take a look.
Washington, D.C., got a lot of evil there, but we're getting it out step by step. A lot of evil, a lot of bad people, a lot of bad people, a lot of fake media. Look at them, a lot of fake media. It's 1999. I'm on Meet the Press, a show now headed by Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd. He's a sleeping son of a bitch, I'll tell you. A certain anchor on CNN, fake as hell, CNN. And their ratings are lousy, by the way, and compared to Fox, their ratings... NBC is perhaps worse than CNN, I have to tell you. And MSNBC is horrible. Everybody in the room's laughing, everybody's having a great time. I'm joking about being president for life. A couple of them went back. Donald Trump, with his dictatorial attitude, now wants to be president for life. You know, straight. Fake news.
Fake news, lying news, propaganda news, misinformation news, it's all truth. Now, of course, the media, they're apoplectic. After being called out for their extreme bias, they started trashing President Trump. Now, there's a reason why you, the American people, do not trust the fake news media. You should not. They have an agenda. The agenda is clear. It's obvious. It's transparent. And the president is not going to let them get away with it any longer. In 2007, I said journalism is dead. It has been for years. And tonight we have even more proof. And look at this. In a recent column for The Guardian, former New York Times executive editor Jill Abramson makes this creepy admission that further exposes her liberal bias. The head of the New York Times writing, quote, "It's easy to look at what's happening in D.C. in despair. That's why I carry a little plastic Obama doll in my purse. I pull him out every now and then to remind myself that the United States had a progressive African-American president until very recently. Some people find this strange, you think? But you have to take comfort where you can find it in Donald Trump's America. Really? An Obama comfort doll? We got to get one of those over to Chris Matthews ASAP. He can get a lot of thrills up his leg." First, joining us now to react to our top story, House Intel Committee member, Utah Congressman Chris Stewart, former House Oversight Committee chair, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Congressman Stewart, I look at these revelations. It's spectacularly stunning. 14 months. And no evidence of collusion, no evidence of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. None. Zero. Zip. Sir.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's been a long time. As you said, it's been 15 months. We interviewed something like 73 witnesses, looked at something like 310,000 documents. But, you know, this can't surprise anyone. I mean, it really just can't. How long have you been saying that? How long have I and others been saying that? For heaven's sakes, Dianne Feinstein said this. James Clapper said this. And I challenge Mr. Schiff, who seems to think that there's some secret evidence that he can't reveal. Two things on that. One is, does anyone in the world believe that if there was evidence of collusion, that it would not have been leaked? Under the circumstances that we've seen? Of course it would. You would already know about it. And the second thing, this is such an important point, Sean. We've been accusing people of conspiracy and treason. And at the end of the day, these people are innocent. Aren't these others who oppose what the Republicans have said on this, aren't they willing to come forward and just say, you know what, maybe we got this wrong. It's not fair to these individuals to keep this cloud over them when there just isn't evidence to support that.
And Congressman Chaffetz, I'll read again. No evidence of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And then it goes on how anti-Trump research made its way from Russian sources to the Clinton campaign, that would be the dossier, and problematic contacts between senior intelligence community officials and the media. In other words, they lied, they leaked, and they provided misinformation to the American media that ran with all of it.
Well, Adam Schiff has proved that he is a political hack at the highest levels. He's an embarrassment to the United States Congress. He's an embarrassment to the Intelligence Committee. And it's just shameful what he has done. The second part is the only thing that, that we actually have evidence of is that Hillary Clinton tried to rig the election against Bernie Sanders. And then she goes out and spends millions and millions of dollars working with the Russians to develop this fake dossier that makes its way, and it's treated as if it's the gospel, and it was not, and it was abused along the way.
And Congressman, the irony is, even in the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden Adam Schiff changed his tune. He knows he's been lying for over 14 months. How are we to deal with people that are willing to drag the country through the mud to advance their lie and their narrative?
Well, I think there's a couple points on this. One is, at the end of the day, the American people aren't stupid, and they can look at the evidence or the lack of evidence, and they can draw their own conclusion. And then when they hear others say, no, just trust me, there's evidence, we just can't share it with you, I think they begin to be suspicious of that, obviously, as a minimum, and they begin to, I think, reflect back on those individuals who do that. And once again, Sean, I think, look, in your monologue, there was so much to talk about. Oh, my heavens, we could spend hours on that, but the important point now is this. What did the FBI, what did the DOJ do? Were they acting ethically? Were they acting legally? And others along that line, as you said, this investigation has got some other very important points that we need to pursue. And I think we owe that to the American people to not just end here, but in a practical way and in a non-dramatic way and in a non-partisan way, continue with these other lines of questioning to tell them that as well.
I've got to run. We are going to break down this week on the show the anatomy of a 14, 18-month lie. Thank you both. You've been amazing. We have so much more. No evidence. Trump, Russia collusion. We'll have more on the breaking new information. Also, a dangerous situation in Austin, Texas, involving 3 separate bomb attacks. Sarah Carter on her brand new report about James Clapper. A lot coming up straight ahead. And Greg Jarrett. This is a Fox News Alert. Our top story tonight. The Republicans on the House Intel Committee have wrapped up the investigative phase of their Russian probe. And tonight, they released their conclusion. None, zero, zip, no collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Joining us now, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Let's start with you on the number one. We have known it, but the media kept pushing it. You notice when Schiff, the last 2 times he's interviewed, the evidence is already out there. No, it's not been out there. They've never, Dianne Feinstein, Joe Manchin, even Maxine Waters said there's smoke, no fire.
Right.
And
there was never any evidence of collusion. It was always a hoax. And the FBI knew this. But nevertheless, they tried to be really clever. They launched a counterintelligence probe, which gave them more latitude. And they used that as a pretext to investigate Donald Trump as a criminal and his associates. And all of these accusations by the media and by Democrats, with their hair on fire, amounted to nothing. Carter Page giving a speech in Moscow, the Trump Tower meeting with a Russian lawyer, bar talk with Papadopoulos.
Yeah, bar talk, 4-way hearsay. 4-way.
All of these things are not crimes. Collusion in a political campaign is not criminal. It's not a crime to talk to a Russian. These are all normal interactions that occur if you're a U.S. Senator, Jeff Sessions, or you have contacts with foreign governments during political campaigns. It was never collusion criminal.
I want to ask you in a minute about Rod Rosenstein.
Sure.
Because his message tonight really ticks me off. But let me go to Sarah Carter. This other aspect of what we're learning from the House Intel Committee, that former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper leaks to CNN, and then he feigns outrage about leaks to Donald Trump and the news media when he's the leaker.
Well, it appears that there was some sort of collusion, not with Russia, but with people in the Obama administration and the media. And part of that was discovered during this 14-month-long investigation, Sean. I mean, they say there is overwhelming evidence to support the fact that Clapper did speak with CNN prior to Jake Tapper publishing the story with Jim Sciutto on CNN and actually going on air with it. You know, so this is what's interesting. I mean, it was about the briefing that was given by senior level Obama administration officials, including Clapper. It included John Brennan and others like Mike Rogers and James Comey about the dossier. And as soon as that became public in CNN, the rest of the media, which had ignored the dossier since the summer of 2016 because they were too afraid to publish it because it was salacious, all of a sudden jumped on board and said, oh, wow, there must be something here, because CNN just reported about the briefing that was conducted with then President-elect Trump and Obama and ran with it. So it was a snowball effect, and it actually propagated the disinformation that the Russians had fed to Steele in this dossier about President Trump.
Unbelievable. Let me go to you, Greg Jarrett. And this is Rod Rosenstein.
Right.
He, in my opinion, his relationships with Mueller and Comey and McCabe and others must now be brought out into the daylight. But Rosenstein comes out tonight. The special counsel is not an unguided missile. I don't believe there's any justification at this point for terminating the special counsel. Why? Because now they can set perjury traps. Now that there's no Russia-Trump collusion. Now that they're going to say, well, let's move to the finances of, Jared Kushner. Like, where was that in the original mandate or investigation? Investigative creep is the biggest problem with these special counsels.
It was, and Rosenstein wrote it in his appointment assignment to Robert Mueller. And he also violated the special counsel law when he selected Robert Mueller. You have to have, if you read the law very carefully, you have to have evidence of a crime. There was never any evidence of a crime. And yet he appointed a special counsel to investigate in search of a crime. That's backwards.
Because of his buddy, James Comey, who you think is the most foolish man on earth to be going on a book tour.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree with you.
If he's asked tough questions and he answers them honestly, he could end up being prosecuted.
I think we already have enough information on him and violations of law. You agree with that?
Oh, I absolutely agree with it. I think he obstructed justice in the Hillary Clinton case, and then he stole government documents and leaked them to the media.
Unbelievable.
That's a crime.
This is the biggest abuse of power, and the entire media in this country and every one of those lying Adam Schiff Democrats, they've been lying. Now, I want to go back to this report tonight, Sarah Carter, if I may, read from this. You know, okay, no evidence of collusion, coordination, conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. How anti-Trump research, i.e. dossier, made its way from Russian sources to the Clinton campaign, and problematic contacts, which we were just talking about, leaks with the intelligence community and the media. Okay, the biggest problem that they discovered as far as Russia was Clinton's dossier that she paid for, that then was used as the bulk of evidence for the FISA warrant against the Trump campaign in the lead up to the election.
That's absolutely true, Sean, and I think that's a crucial point that they make in this one-page draft, is the fact that the information from Russia made its way to the Clinton campaign, made its way into this dossier, and did exactly what Vladimir Putin had hoped it would do. When you think of a disinformation campaign, it went wild. It spread across the news media. Everybody was propagating what the Russians had wanted, was to sow chaos and discord. So, in effect, it was the Clinton campaign unwittingly, possibly, spreading these lies and this disinformation.
How could it be unwitting? Wait a minute. I'm not going to allow, from my perspective, the FBI never verified it. By law, if they're going to present to a FISA court, they must verify. By their own procedures, they're supposed, and protocol, they're supposed to verify it. No, Fusion GPS never verified it. The FBI never verified it.
You're absolutely right. And they did spread that, and that was wittingly inside the United States. What I'm saying is that the information that Steele was collecting, no one did their due diligence here, particularly the FBI. And I want to go back to a statement you made with Greg about Comey. I was speaking to former senior FBI officials today, and one of the things that they stated over and over again, if Comey isn't investigated, then there's a problem here, because this should be a balance of justice. And he leaked information. He leaked his classified memos. Nobody knows when he actually took those memos from the FBI, and he leaked them, and they went into the media. So there's another leaker. It wasn't just Clapper, it was Comey as well.
And I
think there was unwitting and witting use of that
dossier. And he
dossier.
said under oath, by the way, that he had never leaked anything to the media. And then, of course, we learned later by his own admission, he leaked to the media.
But there's so much more. They were very clear. I talked to my sources. I know Sarah talked to her sources. We've got to be clear here. This doesn't include unmasking. This doesn't include the dossier. This doesn't include the corrupt Uranium One deal. This is this is a small sliver. And what I am trying to understand is how we got to a point in this country where lies can literally run this rampant and be this corrupt at the highest level in the FBI, the intel community, and our government. And the Democrats, they spread these lies.
Because the Obama administration, for 8 years, was enabling this and protecting people. I'll give you one example. James Clapper, he's a known liar. He lied to Congress, and then he got caught.
What
should
if
have been
I lied
held
to
in
Congress?
contempt. He should have been charged with perjury, but the Obama administration protected him, and now we learned today through Sarah that he appears to be the leaker to see.
Here's the big question for America tonight. Now that we know everything, it's all coming to fruition. Will we in this country follow the rule of law, or will we have a dual justice system?
This is why you need a second special counsel.
I got a break. Real quick, sorry, I got a break.
Okay.
Get the last word. Go ahead.
Oh, Sean, we would have never known about this had President Trump not been elected. Think about that.
That's the great irony, really. Thank you both. You both have been amazing, and I know we've all taken heat for this, and we've all been right from the get-go, and there's so much more to come. I told you this would be the year of the boomerang. Also, another major story we're following. Hillary Clinton just can't give it up. She's apparently still bitter, still making excuses why she lost the election, this time to a foreign audience in India. Listen to one of the reasons why she thinks some women voted for Donald Trump.
We do not do well with white men, and we don't do well with married white women. And part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should.
Wonder how much she got paid for that little old speech. Now, she also blasted President Trump, essentially called his voters racist. Really, Hillary? Watch.
It's commonly said that countries deserve the governments they get. Does America deserve Donald Trump? What's gone wrong?
Well, I would have to say no, we did not deserve that. His whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You know, you didn't like black people getting rights, you don't like women, getting jobs, you don't want to, see that Indian American succeeding more than you are. Whatever your problem is, I'm going to solve it.
Anger, bitter, sore loser who paid for Russian government propaganda and lies and still lost. Joining us now, the host of Michelle Malkin Investigates, CRTV, Michelle Malkin, Fox News national security strategist, Sebastian Gorka. Only in as much, Michelle, that I want to talk about Hillary is that the only thing we're learning tonight is, in fact, her campaign, how, in fact, again, I'll read it directly, how anti-Trump research made its way from Russia sources to the Clinton campaign. In other words, to lie to the American people.
Yeah, that's right. And the treachery and the anti-American sentiment that drove Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, for that matter, all of these years has bubbled up, seethed, and now she's overseas trashing America, and in particular American women, for the loss that only falls on her shoulders. Thank you, Blamery. Blamery, that's her name. That's who she is. And, you know, as if we don't already have the longest laundry list of all of the people she's blamed other than herself for her loss, for her betrayal.
Including Fox.
Of American principles. Exactly. Fox is on that list. Sexism, racism, misogyny. Really, didn't we just finish celebrating International Women's Day, where we're supposed to respect all women? And here she is trashing half of all of America's women for being brainwashed somehow. What about our free will? What about our choices? What about our desire for our families to have America that's great again?
Dr. No, you're right. Dr. Gorka, this is a massive development tonight. After 14 months, and Mueller's still on the job. And Rosenstein saying, oh, it doesn't matter. That's not, going on and actually going on. Well, the special counsel is not an unguided missile. Oh, yes, it is. And it's out of control with all their Clinton donors, Obama donors, DNC donors. No evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. The media's lied. The Democrats have lied. None of them, even they've said it, and people still report it. How can this happen in this country?
Sean, the most important thing to remember is that this is what we knew would happen all along. You knew it because you had that gut sense, because all the amazing work your team has been doing. I knew it because back last summer, the president told me in the Oval Office, they will never find anything because there is nothing. But this is the ultimate boomerang. This is a boomerang the DNC launched, the left launched against Donald Trump and his administration.
Oh, but wait. Obama said it could never happen. Only, you would have to be only stupid people. What did he say? No serious person would ever believe it until, of course, Hillary lost.
But let's translate what we now know. Sure, we now know. I mean, this is the ultimate information operations campaign. Vladimir Putin managed to place Russian disinformation, lies about a presidential candidate into the U.S. system through Hillary Clinton, through her lawyer, through the DNC, into the justice system, so it actually landed in front of a FISA court judge. That is the enormity of what we're talking about.
We have 40 seconds, Michelle Malkin, and the worst part of all of this is they knew from the beginning, and the only person that gave us Russian lies in the campaign was Hillary.
Hillary Clinton, that's right. And it's the Clinton cash machine that has benefited so greatly from betraying American values and for betraying American law, for that matter. Why isn't Hillary Clinton and the DNC, as the conduit for this information, why aren't they facing indictment and prosecutions? We heard the mantra, lock her up, over the campaign cycle. And now we really... That's right, and we need to hear it again and again and louder until it actually happens.
It's a criminal cartel, Sean.
Thank you, guys. This is a big night. We'll have a lot more on anatomy of lies when we come back. My exclusive one-on-one with Mike Pence. Big news tonight. Fox News alert. Republicans on the House Intel Committee releasing their initial findings today after the committee has now ended this part of the Russian probe, and they conclude no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion during the 2016 election. We've been lied to all this time. Earlier today, prior to that report, I sat down with the Vice President, Mike Pence, for an exclusive interview, and I asked the Vice President about California refusing to enforce federal immigration laws, Joy Behar attacking his faith, and a lot more. Take a look. You have sanctuary cities. Now you have a sanctuary state of California. The president expected to go to California tomorrow. And then you have a defiant Oakland mayor who is tipping off criminal illegal immigrants that ICE and border are coming their way. What should happen? The Attorney General actually went as far as to say that they'll use every tool that they have against the Oakland mayor. Was that a crime in your view? Is that obstruction of justice?
We're a nation of laws, Sean. And all of us who take the oath of office to serve at every level take an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and for state officials to the Constitution of that state. I mean, to have an elected mayor in Oakland, California, say that they're not going to uphold the laws of the United States of America.
Worse, they're helping people that have broken the law.
Look, the mayor's actions are disgraceful on a couple levels. Number one, she's setting aside her oath of office to uphold the laws of the land and the rule of law. But secondly, and I spoke to the Attorney General about this, the majority of individuals who are being targeted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement had a criminal record. And so for the mayor of Oakland to warn them in advance of actions by ICE personnel actually put those law enforcement officers at risk. That's just utterly unacceptable. I mean, look, we need to fix a broken immigration system. We need to fix this system in a way that puts American citizens and American workers first, and we can do that. But the answer is not the kind of civil disobedience that we see in municipal governments and in the state of California that are simply saying we're going to set aside a recognition of federal law simply because we disagree with it. That's not how the American system works, and we'll continue to call on that mayor and on leaders around the country to respect the rule of law and put the safety and security of our law enforcement personnel first.
You recently had an incident, comments made by Joy Behar of The View. Bob Iger said that she called you privately to apologize. Can you bring us behind the scenes and tell us what happened? But she didn't say it publicly, although the original comments that she made about Christianity were made publicly.
Well, Sean, my Christian faith is the most important thing in my life. I mean, my wife and I spend most mornings with a little bit of time in the Bible, a little bit of time in prayer. And we're very typical Americans. I think the tens of millions of Americans cherish their faith. And so when I heard that ABC had a program where my Christian faith had been described as a mental illness, I thought it was important for me to speak out, not on my own behalf. You and I know that criticism comes with public life, but I felt it was important that I defend the faith of tens of millions of Americans against that kind of slander. And I did so. And, you know, I give Joy Behar a lot of credit. She picked up the phone. She called me. She was very sincere. And she apologized. And one of the things my faith teaches me is grace. Forgive as you've been forgiven.
So does mine, but I'm not as good at it as you.
Well, look, but I said to Joy, of course I forgive you. That's part of my faith experience. But I did encourage her, and I'm still encouraging her, to use the forum of that program or some other public forum to apologize to tens of millions of Americans who were equally offended by what she and what
makes me question the sincerity of it, because you're right, it wasn't just a shot against you, it was against, and I'm a Christian, anybody of faith.
Well, but for me, it was never about me. I mean,
understood.
You know,
you don't take it personally.
No, I didn't take it personally. But I just thought it was important in this moment that I speak out on behalf of the faith of tens of millions of Americans, and my hope is that that Joy and others on the airways will come to appreciate the meaning and if I can say the joy that comes from faith, and respect that.
Last question. 2018. The Democrats expected the big blue wave in Texas. That never happened. Tomorrow there's an important race going on in the Pennsylvania 18th Congressional District. A lot at stake for you, for the president, for the country, if, God forbid, Nancy Pelosi became the speaker again.
Well, it's the only thing at stake is everything. I mean, if you like a growing economy, if you like 3 million new jobs, if you like a president rebuilding our military, having America standing tall in the world again, fighting for free, fair, and reciprocal trade, appointing conservatives to the courts and cutting taxes, then what will happen in Pennsylvania 18 tomorrow is about other than the two candidates that are on the ballot, and the fall election's just the same. Look, the president and I both campaigned for Rick Saccone. He would be a fantastic member of Congress, wore the uniform of the United States for nearly 2 decades, and has extraordinary credentials. He was just endorsed by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Sunday morning. But that election, to me, and this fall's elections are really more about the direction of the country. And the people of Pennsylvania have a great opportunity to send a message that they support the direction that President Trump
Is it also about those crumbs that Nancy Pelosi talks about?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, let's make no mistake about it. If the Democrats took over the Congress in this fall's elections, Nancy Pelosi would be Speaker of the House again. And we don't have to wonder what that would be like. I was in the Congress the last time it happened, Sean. It's all about raising taxes and more regulations and the Dodd-Frank bill that's killed community banking and lending to